Hello guys, it's SC Fitness here, and today we're going to talk about eating disorders. So just for today's video, we're going to focus on anorexia nervosa and bulimia nervosa, but in the future, we are going to be covering other eating disorders such as binge eating and selective eating. But stay tuned for that as I will make a part 2 video, which will be coming out at a future time regarding eating disorders. So basically, let's first define what an eating disorder is. So an eating disorder is an abnormal behavior in eating or eating habits, and this could be also in exercise as well. So basically, an example of that is you're eating too less calories, you're eating so much more calories even though you're full, but this is like in extreme amounts. Like eating disorder is like extreme of the extreme. So basically, this is a really tough spot to be, and this is a spot that I hope even my worst enemy would never be in. So basically, that's what an eating disorder is. And now we should go on to talk about the eating disorder, anorexia nervosa first. So basically, with anorexia nervosa, we want to keep in mind that people are basically trying to get thinner and thinner and as thin as possible. Victims of this eating disorder are usually underweight, but they think of themselves as overweight. I use this term of body dysmorphia because it's like most anorexic people are body dysmorphic, which means they show a different image on like themselves as a part to what others think about themselves or about the victim. So like let's say someone thinks the victim is skinny or is really fit. The victim probably thinks they are fat or unfit. So like there's kind of like a difference of what a victim thinks. They don't see themselves correctly in the mirror basically. And this is when it starts to overpower the rational thinking of that yes, they're fit, yes, they're okay. Like that starts to get overpowered by this body dysmorphia. I know I use fancy terms there. They try to severely limit the food they're taking in, the intake, what kinds of food, even clean eating. But that's more orthorexic. We're trying to focus on anorexia, which is basically limiting food at all costs. So like they may even go on the cotton ball diet, diets with 0 calories just to prevent any food intake. So that's what it is. In extreme cases, this can be fatal. This disease is actually super fatal, and 33% of NCAA athletes actually feel that they have some kind of anorexic symptoms where they're not quite anorexic, but they're starting to get really obsessive and they're starting to think about taking in those practices. So this is really big because this is fatal. Like being anorexic is no short of being like in a big disease. Like let's say you're suffering with not as quite as cancer, but like this is really serious, and this disease should never be joked upon or made into like any kind of jokes or any kind of like teasing about it because this is very serious. And so basically that's all I kind of have for anorexia nervosa, how they're limiting the food intake and how this is actually pretty common. Males can also get this eating disorder. A lot of times people think eating disorders are limited to females, but males also can have anorexia nervosa. So let's move on to bulimia nervosa. bulimia nervosa, the people usually get guilty of eating a lot and basically eating like a lot of food, really like binge eating in a short amount of time. And then so after, because they're so guilty, they purge it. And this is also really common, even more common than anorexia, as people find this to be desirable because they can still enjoy eating, but then they can also quote quote maintain a really good body, even though this is not a really good body. This is not healthy at all. You can suffer from a deficiency in nutrients, and these practices are really, really harming. People are mainly because they eat so much and there's only a certain amount they can purge, they usually remain at normal weight. So it's really like harder to see than anorexia. Well, in anorexia, you can kind of guess by the physique about how they're avoiding food. It's a bit harder to see like people throwing up after, and like that can be harder to see. And so these victims also may have other issues like substance abuse. They may suffer from alcoholism. There are also a lot of other issues which can come from bulimia. So basically, when paired up with that, this can be super fatal and very dangerous. Again, not something that should be taken lightly. If anyone's suffering from anorexia or bulimia or any other eating disorder, try to find help from them immediately. Like, we need to support people in society who have these eating disorders because these are taking over their minds. These are controlling every bit of their bodies. These are taking over themselves, and we need to stop that. And so that's kind of all I have for bulimia nervosa. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. As always, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Look out for future videos and share this channel around the world. Of course, as I hope you learned that eating disorders are not very pleasant, as that's obvious. And I hope you learn more about the different types of eating disorders and basically what they entail. So, if you know anyone who's struggling with an eating disorder, please search it up, reach out for help. And there are plenty of hotlines, I imagine, which can give you help for eating disorders. And I hope you guys like this video. Stay tuned for the next one. Bye bye.